Have you ever wanted to see someone punch a ghost? Or think there should be an elite government agency solely bet on punching ghosts? Yeah, I don't think anyone's ever wanted either of those two things. But that's what this movie is about. Ghost punchers. It's Men in Black mixed with the punching of ghosts. So it's Men in Black mixed with ghost punchers, only they're punching ghosts. And there's a lot of Ghostbuster Easter eggs in it. It starts out the same way all good movies should start out, with a man delivering his wieners. Because, all men have multiple wieners. We just don't always show them to women. And he's delivering them to a ghost. As he quickly realizes garlic has an effect on ghosts. So he grabs the garlic and he punches the ghost. And the ghost explodes. And then the ghost punchers go to recruit him. But they realize they've got the wrong Kay Peterson. They wanted the CIA operative and the Special Forces Kay Peterson. Instead, they've got his little brother, Kevin, who works at a hot dog company. Works at a hot dog restaurant. But they recruit him anyways, figuring he'll die the first day on the job. So that's how the movie starts. And then he goes and gathers his belongings and goes to Ghost Puncher's headquarters, where we meet his roommate, Miss Shadow, who is a literal nightmare. And by literal nightmare, I mean she is an actual nightmare. That's what she is. She can make things appear out of thin air. She can go in your dreams. She can rape trees. I just wanted to rhyme there for some reason. She's my favorite character in the whole movie. And she delights in torturing Kevin, who she calls Pete. And then he has to make a pact with an apprentice ghost to get his spirit hand, which is the only way to defeat ghosts. And he successfully makes the pact. And then he goes to choose a partner, but Miss Shadows already claimed him. Then they go to their first job, at which point Kevin/Pete runs away like a little girl. Because a doll is possessed and wants to play with them. Miss Shadow follows, and we see Pete's crush from his hot dog restaurant days being possessed by a ghost. Of course, they lie to Miss Frost, who's the head ghost puncher, about all this happening. And then they get another chance to go out when they go to fight their second ghost, who this time Pete punches. Sorry, had to burp. Then they go and find Delilah again. But Delilah kills Pete in one hit. She says, "I love you so much, I'm going to kill you." Something I say to my wiener every day before I jack off. Which explains why it's really, really red afterwards. And then Miss Shadow goes to fight Delilah, and Miss Shadow is also killed. And that is the end of the movie, and they play sad violin songs over the credits. No, it is not. It is not the end of the movie. This is like the halfway. This isn't even the halfway point, I don't think. I think this is like a half hour in. So Pete's ghost jumps in Miss Shadow's body and gives her nightmare fuel, which wakes Miss Shadow up. But there is a hole in the spirit realm in the basement of the hot dog restaurant. At which point Miss Shadow goes, if we can open this hole up, we can put your body in there, Pete, and your soul can be in there too. So Pete gets in a random black dude because he always wanted to see what would happen if his dick was big. And they open the portal up. But around this time, the succubus, Miss Raven, and her partner, who was apparently dead at the end of this thing, come in, and Raven punches Pete out of the black dude. And he's so sad at missing the big penis, he almost kills himself again. But they put Pete's soul back in his body, and they all get yelled at by Miss Frost for staying out past curfew. At which point the succubus continues to drain the life out of her partner. And Pete and Miss Shadow go out to find Delilah. And so they eat at the hot dog restaurant, where no one remembers Pete, though he worked there for 4 years. I've worked at Faces for 4 years before, and I don't think I was remembered. I remember. Yeah, I don't remember much stuff. Anyways, so Pete and Miss Shadow go into the basement to fight Delilah. And it's an epic battle of epicness. The Lord of the Rings theme plays, from the Return of the King. The Return of the King theme plays where the epic battle was. And like an army of spirits come in, and then army of ghost punchers come in, then army of bees come in, then army of falcons come in, then army of elves, then army of orcs, then army of I'm just making shit up as I go along. No, just Pete and Miss Shadow versus Delilah. And it's still a really good battle. Until Pete punches Delilah, and Delilah goes down and comes up and says, "You hit me, you bastard." And so Pete ends up telling Delilah everything. So she doesn't just think he'd just haul off and punch her, as men in the 50s did to their wives. It was okay back then. It was not against the law. It was called discipline. I'm sure I'm going to get some nasty comment for that joke. So Pete tells Delilah everything. And so him, Miss Shadow, and Delilah go back to close the portal. And there's a bunch of ghosts outside the portal. So Pete and Miss Shadow destroy all the ghosts. But the ghost that was in Delilah is still around. And they freeze Pete and Miss Shadow. So then Delilah throws a bunch of garlic at it, which stuns it, freeing Pete and Miss Shadow to knock it out. But the hole's gotten bigger. And the only way to shut it down is for Miss Shadow to go inside and sacrifice herself. And she does. And then Miss Frost shows up with the real Kay Peterson, Kyle Peterson. And she tells Kyle Peterson, pretty much go fuck yourself. We've got the right Kay Peterson in Pete. And Delilah joins the Ghost Punchers. Pete gets a commendation. And they all live happily ever after. Except for Miss Shadow, who's now just being in people's dreams. And that is Ghost Punchers in a nutshell. I don't know why the cat's looking outside in the middle of the night, but whatever. It is 3 a.m. Yes, I see you. I don't know what you're doing. Showing people your butt, apparently. That is Ghost Punchers. This is an awesome movie. It involves ghosts. It involves punching. It involves a lot of funny comedy. So go watch Ghost Punchers. It is on Prime. It's probably also on Tubi. If it's not on Tubi, it will be within the next few months. It is awesome. Go watch it. Join me next week when I do my Women's Month movie, Fairest of Them All, and we'll do something on a wrestling show.